everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Barbara. Probably share a name with some distant great aunt of yours. I don't think anyone born after 1926 has my name, but there you go. I talk about books, and today I'm going to be recommending my favorite non-fiction books. I hope you like them. We have some from fucking everyone here, okay? We have medical, we have art, we have memoir, we have politics, we have some personal favorites, which if you're an OG subscribers, you're gonna see coming. I'm really excited to tell you all about my favorite non-fiction, because even though I do tend to read mainly fiction, sometimes a really fucking good non-fiction book will come along. I feel like I don't talk about them enough on my channel. So the first book that I'm gonna recommend is going to be a surprise to literally nobody. Like literally fucking no one, especially for the ones who have been here for a very long time. I've been here for a while. The book I'm going to be talking about is The Girl with Seven Names by Hyun-Soo Lee. If you are new here, hi, I am very interested in North Korea. In fact, I am so interested that I enrolled in Korean studies in university. I've studied it for over 2 years, and I've recommended In Order to Live by Yeon-mi Park many times on this channel. But the thing is, I've talked about this book a lot less often, and it's just as powerful, just as heartbreaking, but in a very different way. While Yeon-mi Park's account of what happened is very shocking, has a lot of shock value, and is filled with trauma, this is quite different because the author, if I remember correctly, was born in quite a privileged environment, and when she escaped North Korea, it was actually an accident. She crossed the frozen river between North Korea and China as a dare, and then realized that she was stuck. So she had to make a life for herself in China, where she was at constant risk of being sent back to North Korea to certain death, or at the very least a gruesome alleged death camp. So the narration is beautiful, very endearing. You just want to reach through the pages and give her a hug and a pat on the back for everything she's been through. So if you are interested in learning more about the experience of defectors, which I feel like their voices should be spoken about much more, because, you know, we talk a lot about crazy Rocket Man, but I think it's important to hear out the people who have actually lived these experiences firsthand. If you read it or have read it, because I have recommended this before, let me know what you thought of it. And if you are gonna read it, I don't know, like fucking read it and then come back and let me know, okay? Staying with Asia-China theme, we have been Harmonized by Kai Strittmatter. This book, not gonna lie to you, made me shit myself. It's a little bit scary. I mean, it's an account of the surveillance system in China, and you know, we all know it's a little bit crazy, but once you realize how intense the government is with repressing dissidents and misinformation, and you know, the social credit system, I mean, it's fucking terrifying. I spoke about it in my January wrap-up of 2021, and I read it almost back to back with 1984, and at the time I referred to this as, you know, what happened, and as 1984 as the YouTube story time. I stand by that. This is actually fucking traumatizing. I mean, if you're looking to lose faith in fucking everything, pick this one up. Staying with the theme of fascists and violent dictators, I'm sorry, I think this is the last one. It's almost the last one. I also talked about this book in my wrap-up in 2021, Blitzed by Norman Ohler. Now you might recognize the man on the cover. This book is all about drug addiction and drug use in Nazi Germany. In case you didn't know, Hitler, he was a degenerate. Like, he was addicted to every possible drug out there, which I did not know. And it's fascinating. He had this doctor who pumped him full of chemicals and drugs and hormones, and he was completely addicted. And at the end of his life, he was just not okay, and you know, there is this theory that it contributed to, you know, how he died. It's so well researched as well. There's like scans of prescriptions, pictures of him when he was at his worst. It's super well researched. Now I am going to say that this drags on for quite a while. It's like a 350 page book that could have been a 250 page book, but it was so fascinating and out of this world that I feel like everyone should read it just so they can see how fucking crazy it is. This is fucking insane and adds so much to the history that we know today. This book blew my mind, it really did. Finally, we have the last where we follow this kind of theme, and it's Homage To Catalonia by George Orwell. I read this a very long time ago. I think it was I think I must have been 15. It was before I even joined booktube, and it tells of George Orwell's experience fighting the fascists in Spain, fighting Franco, and it's a very gritty and realist depiction of war. I enjoyed this a lot more than I enjoyed 1984. I mean, it's obviously not the same thing, but you know, George Orwell's writing really came to life in this for me, and I tend to really enjoy personal accounts. Whereas, you know, most of you know, I mean, I did not enjoy 1984. I recognize that it's a necessary novel. I recognize that it's an important work of literature, but I didn't enjoy it. This I really enjoyed. So if you are looking to get started with George Orwell, or you've already read, you know, Animal Farm and 1984, maybe reach for this one, because it really adds a lot of nuance to his other works, in the sense where you get to see how he thinks, who George Orwell was as a person, and it does help you kind of understand where he's coming from in his works of fiction. And this has been my best experience with Orwell. I've read Animal Farm, I've read 1984 and Homage to Catalonia, and this one was my favorite. Next book is entirely different, and it is Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shetterly. You've almost definitely heard of the movie, you've almost definitely seen it. For those of you who haven't seen the movie or indeed heard of it, it is basically based on the true story of three black women who worked for NASA in 1960s America. So, you know, they didn't have the best time, and the movie is wonderful. That's why I picked up the book. It's good as well, but it's very, very different. Don't go into this book expecting a more developed version of the movie. This is very dry and academic. This is a book that you're going to read to learn rather than be entertained and simultaneously get a good message from. This is very dry. I do wish that Margot E. Shetterly had gone more into a storytelling way to go about it. But if you love the movie and you want to learn more about the actual women who are referred to in the movie, who the movie was based on, this is your book, because it really goes in depth into their experience, their place in society. Next book I'm going to be recommending to the bravest amongst you, but I do think it's necessary, and it's The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. This is a book that I am still reading. I started it last year, and I've been trying to slowly make my way through it. It's not an easy read. It's, you know, it's chock full of facts, statistics, and it's a reality that isn't very pleasant to be reading about. Even if you are already very well informed on systemic oppression of black people in America, this is something that you need to read, that you need to understand, to be able to maybe explain to people who may be misguided on the situation. If you are intimidated by this book, because it is, like I said, quite a difficult read, I think that there is a Netflix documentary that has been based on it. I think that if I don't finish it within the next couple of months, I am going to try and motivate myself by watching this documentary. I mean, this is so much information. God, it's an awful thing to read about, but you know, it's necessary, I think. Even though I'm not American, it is still the most powerful country in the world right now, so it's good to stay informed on that sort of stuff. Moving on to something slightly more I was going to say positive, but I mean, we're about to talk about the Psychopath Test by Jon Ronson. This is a book that one of my friends recommended to me when I was in like high school. I feel like this might even be her book, I'm not entirely sure. If so, I'm so sorry. This is a very well researched account of how psychopaths work, what areas they excel at, the spectrum of psychopathy as well. Some people are, you know, Ted Bundy type psychopaths. Some people are just successful businessmen. Some people are just CEOs, you know. And you know, the journalist who wrote this book went to interview prisoners, corrupt politicians. It was so well researched and compelling and funny at times. If you are looking for something that you will probably binge read, this is your book. Oh, another book that could actually be put in the same category, it's medical but also touches on the topic of psychopathy, is The Knife's Edge by Stephen Westaby. I don't have it with me, I think it's at my parents' house, but holy shit. So good, so good. I read it when I was in the middle of my medicine phase. I had a phase where I was really interested in medicine. So I was reading literally any medical memoir that I could get my hands on. So that was one of them, and it basically discusses the mindset of surgeons. The writer is a cardiothoracic surgeon, and he talks about how a lot of surgeons are probably psychopaths. Think about that next time you go to the doctors, you're welcome. It talks about how, you know, not anyone can do this job, that it takes a certain type of person to do this job, that a lot of people have the same, I was going to say abnormality, but not really abnormality, but the same way of seeing things, the same mindsets, and usually surgeons aren't caring, philanthropic, selfless little beings. You know, generally there are other motivations, and it was very interesting to read about. If I ever need surgery, I feel like that's what I'm gonna think about though, you know, fun times. Next book I'm gonna recommend is very niche. A lot of you probably wouldn't like it, okay, but it is The Art Spirit by Robert Henry. Okay, listen. This is a very old book, and a lot of people say that it has absolutely no relevance today. I totally disagree. This is a book about art, a collection of letters and essays aimed towards his students, and it's quite old. I loved it. I mean, the man is so passionate. Like, you really only get anything from this if you are into art in a massive way. I feel like just the average reader who doesn't give a fuck about painting would just get so bored immediately. I read this in the summer and I was painting a lot at the time, and I was like, oh my god, this is so good. I feel this so much. I loved it. It's a personal favorite of mine. But again, this is very niche. Do not read this if you don't give a fuck about painting. If you read this because you're like, oh, I like art. No, don't. You need to actively love drawing and painting and all that stuff to get anything from this. This is a series of technical advice. I mean, I loved it. It's one of my favorites, and if you like art, I absolutely recommend it. But I mean, oh my god, it's so endearing. The guy's so passionate. There's some passages where I was like, dude, you're so intense. I love it. Still talking about art, the next book I'm going to talk about is Walk Through Walls by Marina Abramovic. I talked this in my best books of 2021 video. This is one of the best books of 2021. Absolutely loved it. It is the autobiography of Serbian performance artist Marina Abramovic. She has done some crazy shit in her time. Look her up, read her biography. She's most famous for standing still, statue-like, in front of a table with knives, guns, random objects, being like, I take full responsibility for whatever is about to happen to me. Do whatever the fuck you want. This woman is insane, she's crazy, and I think she is the person I respect the most on this planet. She also worked with people like Lady Gaga and stuff like that. It's so interesting. And she also kind of like was rooming with like a bunch of like heroin addicts in the Netherlands because she couldn't afford a house. It's crazy. She's had a crazy life. I just cannot recommend this enough. I love this book. It's one of my favorites, all-time favorites. Next book I'm going to be talking about is At the Existentialist Cafe by Sarah Bakewell. If you are looking to dip your toes into philosophy, please pick this up. This is what I did. Sarah Bakewell is so funny. She's so entertaining. She covers philosophers like Simone de Beauvoir, Sartre, Camus, Heidegger, Kant. You learn a lot of interesting facts, like the fact that Heidegger was a Nazi. Anyway, I could not recommend this enough. Another book that I've talked about recently on my channel is The Ancient Guide to Modern Life by Natalie Haynes. Loved it. Will continue rereading it till the day I die. This basically, I've already talked about it, so I'm not going to spend too long talking about it. I very recently read it. Kind of draws comparisons with the way the ancient Greeks and the Romans lived compared to how we live today. The political systems, the way women are treated, trains of thought, philosophy, religion. So interesting, so witty, so funny, so eloquent. I mean, Natalie Haynes is my queen. Like, that's why I'm like not reading her fiction yet, because you know, she writes Greek mythology retellings, and we all know how I feel about retellings. No, we don't all. If you're new, I'm sorry. If you're new, I hate retellings most of the time. So if you have read her fiction, fucking let me know if it's good or not. Maybe I'll give it a try. Alright guys, this is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know which non-fiction book you would recommend to me, okay? You've seen the books that I read right now. Even if you're new, you've seen what I'm kind of drawn to. If you have any non-fiction recommendations, let me know. You can follow me on Instagram and Goodreads. You can follow me on Twitter if you like wasting your time. You can watch my last videos over here. You can watch a book review right there. I will see you guys very soon, hopefully. Goodbye.